Black woman accidentally emails her grocery list to a millionaire, and he delivers the ingredients. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from today. Zora Thornton was very tired. She sat at her kitchen table and stared at her laptop screen. Her eyes felt heavy. The kitchen clock showed 11:43 p.m., but she still had work to do. She needed to grade papers for school and write a blog post about food. Zora was 40 years old and she thought her life would be easier by now. But she worked two jobs. She was a substitute teacher during the day and a food blogger at night. She always felt behind on everything. "Focus, Zora," she whispered to herself and took a sip of her warm coffee. She had just finished writing a grocery list for her sister Alara's birthday dinner. Her sister's birthday was coming up this weekend, and Zora promised to make their mom's special pasta sauce. Their mom had passed away 3 years ago, and Zora made herself the keeper of the family recipes. She wanted to keep her mom's cooking alive, even when she was really tired. She typed the last few things on her list: San Marzano tomatoes, not canned, fresh basil, lots of garlic, at least 6 cloves, and mom's secret ingredient. "Don't forget," she told herself. Zora always emailed grocery lists to herself. It was easier than writing them on paper. She closed her eyes for a second, feeling so sleepy. Then she clicked send and shut her laptop. "Tomorrow is another day," she whispered as she walked slowly to her bedroom. She didn't even check if the email really sent. The next morning came too fast. Zora rushed to get ready. She grabbed a granola bar and ran out the door. It was Thursday, and she was substitute teaching at Lincoln High School for Mrs. Patel's English class. The teenagers were loud, but Zora liked teaching them. "Miss Thornton, did you grade our essays yet?" asked Emma, one of her students. "Almost done," Zora said, even though she hadn't started. "You'll get them tomorrow, I promise." The day went by quickly. They talked about Shakespeare and worked on grammar. At 3 p.m., Zora was ready to go grocery shopping for Alara's birthday. She pulled out her phone to check the email list, but it wasn't there. "That's strange," she said, looking in her inbox. Nothing. She checked her sent folder and gasped. She didn't email the list to herself. Instead, she had sent it to someone named Kessler at KesslerVentures.com. "Oh no," Zora said. She didn't know anyone named H. Kessler. She felt embarrassed. "They'll probably just delete it," she told herself. Zora went to the store without the list, trying to remember everything by heart. Later, she got home and carried her grocery bags into her small apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was enough for her. She had just put the bags on the counter when there was a knock at the door. "Coming," Zora called, thinking it was Mrs. Ramirez, her neighbor. But it wasn't Mrs. Ramirez. At the door stood a tall man in a fancy suit. He had neat, dark hair and a serious face. He was holding a reusable grocery bag. "Zora Thornton?" he asked in a deep voice. "Yes," Zora said slowly. She wasn't sure if she should be worried. "I'm Grayson Kessler," he said. Zora's eyes went wide. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I was half asleep and wait." She stopped and looked at the bag in his hand. "Is that the Grayson Kessler?" she asked. He was the CEO of Kessler Ventures, a very rich and important man. She had seen him in the news. He smiled a little and said, "I wasn't sure if this was a test or a cry for help, but either way, I brought dinner." Zora blinked. She thought she must be dreaming. "You brought my groceries?" "Every item on your list," Grayson said. "I even had to go to 3 stores to find the San Marzano tomatoes that weren't canned." Zora laughed nervously. "Mr. Kessler, this is very strange. You could have just deleted the email." "Grayson, please," he said kindly. "I was going to delete it, but the subject line said Mama's Pasta Night. It reminded me of my grandma's dinners. She was Italian. She taught me how to cook." Zora was so confused. The rich, serious man she had read about didn't seem like this at all. "So you just thought you'd bring the groceries and—" "I thought," he said slowly, "you might let me watch how you make it." Zora should have said no. A billionaire in her tiny kitchen? That was crazy. But she saw something in his eyes. Maybe it was loneliness. She stepped aside. I've never cooked for a billionaire before. I've never watched a food blogger cook before, he said, walking in. Zora's apartment felt really small now. Papers were everywhere. She had food props in the living room. Her kitchen was simple and not fancy. It's not much, she said, feeling shy. It's a home, Grayson replied. Mine is bigger, but not as, he searched for the right word, not as lived in. He placed the groceries on the counter. You can take off your jacket if you want, she said. Cooking gets messy. Grayson carefully took off his suit jacket and hung it over a chair. He rolled up his sleeves. Zora noticed his strong arms but tried not to stare. So what's the plan? He asked. I'm making my mom's pasta sauce for my sister's birthday dinner, Zora said. And the secret ingredient? Grayson asked. I was very curious. Zora smiled. A dash of cinnamon. Most people never guess that. Really? My grandma used cinnamon too. For the next hour, Zora showed Grayson how to cook. He chopped tomatoes and tried to dice an onion, but he looked very careful, like he was doing surgery. You don't cook much, do you? Zora asked. I have a chef, Grayson said. It's been years since I made anything harder than coffee. As they cooked, the smell of garlic and basil filled the air. Grayson looked more relaxed. He even took off his tie. Zora talked about her sister Alara, her busy life, and her food blog. Why don't you make the blog your full-time job? Grayson asked. Zora laughed. Because I need to pay rent. The blog helps with groceries, but not much more. Your recipes are really good, Grayson said. Have you thought about writing a cookbook? Zora almost dropped her spoon. You read my blog? Grayson looked shy. After I got your email, I looked you up. Zora's kitchen comfort is amazing. You read my blog, she repeated, shocked. I liked the story about your mom's Sunday dinners, he said. My grandma passed away when I was in college. She was the only one who made our house feel warm. Zora looked at him. He suddenly seemed very human. What about your parents? She asked kindly. My dad built the company. He was always working. My mom was busy with events. My grandma, Nona, made sure I ate something real. This sauce smells like her kitchen. They sat at Zora's small table and ate the pasta with the sauce they made. Grayson took a bite and closed his eyes. This is amazing, he said. The cinnamon is perfect. Zora smiled. Mom always said food holds memories. It brings people back. They talked through dinner. About Zora's students, Grayson's green energy work, and their love of old movies. Grayson had a funny, quiet sense of humor. He made her laugh a lot. I should go, he said, looking at his watch. I have an early meeting. At the door, he stopped. Thank you for dinner. It's been a long time since I had a meal that wasn't about business. Thank you for the groceries, Zora said, and for not thinking I'm crazy. I'm glad you sent it, he said. Then he asked, maybe I can come back? Watch you cook another recipe. Zora was shocked. The richest man in the city wanted to watch her cook again? I'm making chicken piccata next week for my blog, she said. Tuesday at 7? Grayson smiled a big, real smile. I'll bring the wine. After he left, Zora sat on the couch trying to understand what just happened. Then she picked up her phone and called her sister. You're not going to believe who just left my apartment, she told Alara. Alara didn't believe her at first. Grayson Kessler? Zora, are you dreaming? I'm serious, Zora said. I sent him my grocery list by accident and he showed up with everything on it. Alara laughed. That's either super romantic or the start of a mystery movie. It's not like that, Zora said, but she wasn't really sure. There were moments, she thought, when Grayson looked at me like, so when are you seeing him again? Alara asked. Tuesday, Zora said. He's coming to watch me make chicken piccata. Alara squealed. You have a date with Grayson Kessler. It's not a date, Zora said. It's a cooking lesson. After they hung up, Zora cleaned the kitchen, thinking about the evening. She couldn't remember the last time she had such a good conversation. Zora didn't expect Grayson to be like this. He wasn't rude or mean. He was calm and thoughtful. Before going to bed, Zora checked her email. There was a message from Grayson at Kessler Ventures. The message said, "Zora, thank you for dinner and conversation. Both were exactly what I needed. I'm looking forward to Tuesday." Zora smiled. It was simple, but it made her happy. She replied quickly, saying, "Grayson, next time I'll teach you how to chop vegetables without looking like you're doing surgery. See you on Tuesday." She hit send before she could think too much about it. Then she got ready for bed. As she lay down, Zora thought about what her mom would think. Her life had changed so suddenly. One simple email and everything was different. What she didn't know was that Grayson, in his penthouse, was thinking about the same thing. He thought about how sometimes accidental meetings could feel like they were meant to happen. Tuesday couldn't come fast enough for Zora. She spent the weekend celebrating her sister Alara's birthday. She tried to avoid talking too much about Grayson, but her sister wouldn't stop asking. "So, is your billionaire friend coming to dinner tonight?" Alara asked while they cleaned up after the party. "He's not my billionaire," Zora replied. "And no, this is family time." Alara raised an eyebrow. "You're blushing." "I'm not," Zora said quickly, though she could feel her cheeks turning red. "It's just hot in here." Alara wasn't convinced. "Just be careful, Zoe. Men like that don't usually date substitute teachers." "We're not dating," Zora said, feeling annoyed. "He's just interested in cooking." When Tuesday finally came, Zora was nervous. She cleaned her apartment twice, changed clothes 3 times, and carefully prepared everything for the chicken piccata. She told herself it was because she might use it for her blog, but deep down she knew it was because of Grayson. At 7, there was a knock at the door. When Zora opened it, Grayson was standing there in dark jeans and a light blue shirt. He was casual but still looked rich. He had a bottle of white wine and a small gift bag in his hand. "Right on time," Zora said, smiling. "Always," Grayson replied, stepping inside. He handed her the wine. "I was told this pairs well with chicken piccata. It's perfect," she said, taking the bottle. "What's in the bag?" "Just a thank you for Thursday," Grayson said, looking a little embarrassed. "Open it later." Zora put the gift aside, curious but not wanting to make him feel uncomfortable. "Ready to learn how to chop vegetables properly?" Grayson rolled up his sleeves. "Teach me everything." The kitchen soon filled with the sound of butter sizzling and the smell of lemon and capers. Zora stood behind Grayson, guiding his hands as he cut the chicken. "Like this?" she said, placing her hands over his. "Not so stiff. Let the knife do the work." She could feel the warmth of his back against hers. It was a simple act of teaching, but it felt special. "My grandmother tried to teach me this," Grayson said. "I was always too impatient." "What was she like?" Zora asked. "Passionate, stubborn," Grayson said with a soft smile. "She came from Italy with nothing but a suitcase and recipes. My grandfather fell in love with her right away, or so the story goes." "Sounds romantic," Zora said. "It was." They were still holding hands 50 years later, Grayson added, pausing as he dredged the chicken in flour. "What about your mother? You said she passed away." Zora nodded. 3 years ago. Cancer. She fought hard." "I'm sorry," Grayson said, his voice gentle. "She was the heart of our family. After she died, Alara and I made a pact to keep her recipes alive. It's our way of keeping her with us." They worked in silence for a while. Zora would give instructions, and Grayson followed them carefully. When they finally sat down to eat, Grayson took his first bite and smiled. "I helped make this," he said, sounding proud. "Did," Zora agreed. "You're a natural." They spent the rest of dinner talking about everything. They shared memories, talked about books, and discussed places they wanted to visit. Grayson told her about a new green energy project he was working on. His eyes lit up as he spoke about it. "It's not about the money," he said. "It's about leaving something good behind." Zora felt drawn to his passion. He wasn't the cold businessman the newspapers described. After dinner, they moved to the living room with glasses of wine. Grayson noticed the papers Zora had tried to hide. "Student essays?" he asked. "Yeah," Zora said. "I still need to grade them. I promised my students they'd get them back tomorrow." "Do you enjoy teaching?" Grayson asked. "I do," Zora said. "It wasn't my first choice, but it's rewarding. Seeing a student finally get something, it's magical." "What was your first choice?" Grayson asked. Zora asked. Hesitated. "Culinary school. But then my dad lost his job and tuition had to come first. So almost by the time I graduated with my English degree, my mom got sick. Life happens." Grayson nodded. "Life does happen, but sometimes it happens in unexpected ways." He looked at her like he understood. Zora smiled. "Yeah, like accidental grocery lists." Grayson laughed. "I can't believe you showed up at my door." "Neither can I," Zora said. "It's not something I would normally do." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Grayson said, "I don't know what this is, but it feels important." Zora felt her heart race. She wanted to believe him, but there were too many differences between their lives. When Grayson finally looked at his watch, it was nearly midnight. "I should go," he said. "You have papers to grade, and I have an early meeting." At the door, he paused. "Can I see you again?" Zora's heart skipped a beat. "I'm making lasagna for my blog on Friday. You could come help if you want." "I'd like that," Grayson said, then leaned in and kissed her cheek. "Good night, Zora Thornton." After Grayson left, Zora remembered the gift bag. Inside was a small leather notebook with her name on it. The note said, "For your recipes." Zora held the notebook close, her mind filled with excitement and confusion. She knew this couldn't go anywhere. Their worlds were too different. But over the next 3 weeks, Grayson visited Zora's kitchen often. He'd bring wine or ingredients, eager to learn a new recipe. Their routine never changed. They cooked, ate, and talked until late. Sometimes their hands would touch as they chopped vegetables. Sometimes their eyes would meet over glasses of wine, but they never talked about the tension between them. Zora's blog grew and she felt more inspired. Her sister noticed. "Your posts have been amazing," Alara said one day over coffee. "Something's inspiring you." Zora shrugged. "Just trying new techniques." Alara raised an eyebrow. "And does this new technique have dark hair and his own company?" Before Zora could answer, a woman at a nearby table gasped. "Oh my God, it's Grayson Kessler," she said, showing her phone to her friend. "He's dating some cooking teacher." Zora froze. Alara grabbed her phone and searched online. There was a photo of Grayson leaving Zora's apartment building. The headline said, "Billionaire Bachelor Grayson Kessler's secret girlfriend revealed." Zora's stomach sank. The article was full of speculation about her relationship with Grayson. It even had more pictures. Grayson and Zora shopping, walking in the park, laughing outside a bookstore. "This is crazy," Alara said, reading the article. "How did they get all these photos?" "I don't know," Zora said, feeling sick. "We weren't hiding, but we weren't." Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Grayson. "Have you seen it? I'm so sorry. Can I come over?" Zora quickly texted back. "My place in an hour." When Grayson arrived, he looked worried. "I had no idea they were following us." "How could you not know?" Zora asked, her voice sharp. "Isn't this your normal life?" "No," Grayson said. "I've always been private. This is new." "Welcome to my new normal," Zora said, looking at her buzzing phone. "My students saw the article, my principal called, even my ex-boyfriend texted me." Grayson ran a hand through his hair. "I'll fix this. I'll have my PR team put out a statement." "A statement?" Zora interrupted. "About what? What are we doing here, Grayson?" He looked at her, unsure. "I don't know, but it feels important." Zora shook her head. "I won't be your publicity project for some feel-good headline." "Is that what you think this is?" Grayson asked, hurt. Zora hesitated. "A billionaire CEO and a substitute teacher. It doesn't make sense." "It makes sense to me," Grayson said softly. "When I'm with you, cooking in this kitchen, talking about normal things, I feel like myself for the first time in years. Not Grayson Kessler, CEO, just Grayson." Zora wanted to believe him, but the article had shaken her. Maybe we should take a step back, give things time to calm down. Grayson's face showed pain, but he nodded. If that's what you want. Zora felt her heart ache. I think it's what we need. At the door, Grayson turned to her. I don't want to fix you, Zora. I just want to know what you'll cook next, and if I can help stir the pot. His honesty nearly broke her, but Zora stood firm. Goodbye, Grayson. After he left, Zora curled up on the couch and cried. She told herself it was for the best. Their cooking lessons had been just a brief detour in their different lives. But as she wiped away her tears, Zora realized her apartment felt emptier than it ever had before. Across town, Grayson stood in his penthouse, staring out at the city lights. For the first time, Grayson felt that his success, his wealth, and his carefully built life seemed empty. He picked up his phone, thinking of calling Zora, but put it down again. Zora had asked for space, and he wanted to respect that. Instead, he went to his kitchen, which was big and shiny, a place he rarely used before meeting Zora. He opened his refrigerator and found leftovers from their last dinner together, chicken marsala in a plastic container. There was a note on it. Heat for 2 minutes, not 1:59, not 2:01, exactly 2 minutes. The note made him smile, even though he felt sad. Zora was always so exact with cooking times. As he ate the meal alone at his large dining table, Grayson made a decision. He wouldn't try to pressure Zora or use his power to win her back. Instead, he would show her through his actions, not words, that what they had was real. The next morning, Grayson called his assistant. Cancel my appointments for the afternoon, he said, and find the address of the local food pantry near Lincoln High School. His assistant was used to his unusual requests, so she didn't ask questions. Yes, Mr. Kessler, anything else? She asked. Yes, Grayson said, looking at Zora's note again. Find out everything you can about culinary school scholarships. Meanwhile, Zora focused on her work. She graded papers with extra care, updated her blog with recipes, and tried not to check her phone for messages from Grayson. The gossip about them slowly disappeared, replaced by other celebrity news. But Zora couldn't shake the feeling that something important had slipped through her fingers. 2 weeks after their goodbye, Zora's friend Alara called her, sounding excited. You need to come to the food pantry right now, she said. I can't, Zora protested. I have papers to grade. The papers can wait. Trust me, you want to see this, Alara insisted. Curious, Zora made her way to the community food pantry where she and Alara volunteered. When she walked in, she was surprised to see a lot of volunteers sorting donations. What's going on? She asked Alara, who was waiting for her at the door. We got a huge donation, Alara said, pulling Zora toward the back room. Enough to feed twice as many families this month, and guess who's been organizing it all? Alara pushed open the door, and there was Grayson Kessler. He was working hard, sleeves rolled up, sorting cans with other volunteers. He didn't notice Zora at first because he was busy explaining to an elderly volunteer how to use a tablet that he had provided. He's been coming every day for the past 2 weeks, Alara whispered. No cameras, no publicity. He told everyone his name is just H. Most of them have no idea who he is. Zora watched quietly as Grayson showed the volunteer how to use the tablet again. He looked different, more relaxed in a simple t-shirt and jeans, his hair slightly messy. When he noticed her, their eyes met and his face brightened with hope, followed by uncertainty. He excused himself from the volunteer and walked over to Zora. Hi, he said simply. Hi, she replied, not sure what to say. I should explain, Grayson started, but Zora interrupted him. You've been volunteering here every day? She asked. Grayson nodded. You mentioned once that you and Alara donate your blog leftovers here. I thought I could help anonymously. It's not about the publicity, he said. It never was with you. Zora looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. You asked for space, he said softly. I wanted to respect that, but I also wanted to show you that I meant what I said about wanting to know what you'll cook next. Before Zora could respond, an older woman walked up to them. Are we still organizing the cooking class for next week? I've got 10 families signed up already, she asked. Grayson smiled at her. Absolutely, Mrs. Collins. I've got the ingredients covered. The woman patted his arm. You're a good boy, she said before walking away. A cooking class? Zora asked, once they were alone again. Many of the families here don't know how to prepare healthy meals on a budget, Grayson explained. I thought, well, I learned so much from you. Maybe I could pass some of that along. Zora felt something warm in her chest. This wasn't someone trying to impress her or seeking attention. This was someone who had listened to her, who had taken what she taught him and made it matter. Grayson, she started, unsure of what to say. I miss you, he said simply. I miss cooking with you, talking with you, just being with you. Zora felt tears in her eyes. I miss you too. Then let me come back, Grayson said, stepping closer to her. Not for the cooking lessons, not for the recipes. For you, Zora. Just you. She wanted to say yes immediately, but something made her hold back. What about the gossip, the publicity? I can't promise it won't happen again, Grayson said honestly, but I can promise to face it together. No statements, no PR teams, just us figuring it out as we go. Zora looked at him. This man, who had shown up at her door with groceries, who had chopped vegetables like he was performing surgery, who had quietly stepped into her world without needing recognition or praise. Okay, she said finally. Grayson's face lit up. Okay, yes, but on one condition. Anything, Zora said. Next time, he said with a small smile, I get to pick the recipe. Grayson laughed, his voice warm and real. Deal? As they stood there, surrounded by canned goods and pasta boxes, Zora realized something. Sometimes the best recipes weren't found in cookbooks. Sometimes they happened by accident with unexpected ingredients and no clear instructions, just like the email that led to a grocery list that led to this moment. And she couldn't wait to see what they would cook up next. Grayson and Zora left the food pantry together, walking side by side down the evening streets. For the first time in weeks, Zora felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Are you hungry? Grayson asked. Starving, Zora admitted. I was too nervous to eat lunch after Alara called. Nervous? Grayson raised an eyebrow. I didn't know what to expect, she explained. The last thing I imagined was finding you organizing canned goods with Mrs. Collins. Grayson laughed. She's quite a force of nature. She reminds me of my grandmother. She called you a good boy, Zora teased. I don't think the board of Kessler Ventures would agree. Probably not, Grayson agreed, his eyes crinkling at the corners. But I'll take Mrs. Collins' opinion over theirs any day. They decided to go to a small neighborhood diner, the kind of place where no one would expect to find Grayson Kessler. The waitress didn't give him a second look as she led them to a booth in the back. Over burgers and fries, they began to rebuild what had been interrupted. Grayson told Zora about his work at the food pantry, how he'd been helping them upgrade their inventory system and storage. I'm organizing a fundraiser next month, he explained. Nothing flashy, just a community dinner. I was hoping you might help plan the menu. I'd love to, Zora said, touched by his thoughtfulness. As they ate, Zora noticed something different about Grayson. He seemed more relaxed, less guarded. The polished businessman was still there, but now she could see the person underneath more clearly. You've changed, she observed. Grayson thought about it. I think I'm just remembering who I was before the company took over my life. Being at the food pantry, doing something directly helpful instead of just writing checks. It feels right. And the cooking classes were your idea? Zora asked. He nodded, looking a little embarrassed. I'm not qualified to teach, obviously, but I thought we could bring in experts, maybe even a certain food blogger I know. Zora smiled. I might know someone. Their conversation flowed easily, picking up where they had left off weeks ago. By the time they finished their meal, it felt like they had never been apart. Can I walk you home? Grayson asked as they left the diner. I'd like that, Zora replied. The evening air was cool and stars began to appear in the darkening sky. They walked slowly, neither wanting the night to end. When they reached Zora's building, she hesitated, then made a decision. Would you like to come up for coffee? Grayson's smile was answer enough. Inside her apartment, Zora suddenly realized how much had changed since Grayson first came with her grocery list. Her living room now had several framed photographs of dishes from her blog. Her cookbook collection had grown, and the leather-bound recipe notebook Grayson had given her was on the coffee table, already half filled with recipes. Your place looks different, Grayson noted, glancing around. I've been busy, Zora said, moving to the kitchen to make coffee. The blog is doing really well lately. I've even had a few companies reach out about sponsored posts. That's fantastic, Grayson said sincerely. As Zora prepared the coffee, she felt Grayson behind her, close but not touching. The air between them seemed full of unspoken words. Zora, he said softly. She turned to face him. Their bodies were only inches apart in the small kitchen. Yes, she asked. I've missed this, he said, gesturing around them. Your kitchen, your recipes, you. Zora's heart beat faster. I've missed you too. Grayson gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The simple touch made her shiver. Can I kiss you? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Instead of answering, Zora closed the space between them, kissing him softly at first, then deeper as Grayson pulled her closer. When they finally pulled away, they were both breathless. I've wanted to do that since the first night I came here with your grocery list, Grayson admitted. Why didn't you? Zora asked, still in his arms. I didn't want to scare you away, he said. And I wasn't sure if you felt the same way, Zora smiled up at him. For a brilliant businessman, you can be pretty clueless, she teased. Grayson laughed, the sound rumbling in his chest. I'm better with spreadsheets than with women. They moved to the couch, coffee forgotten. For hours, they talked and kissed and talked some more, making up for lost time. Grayson told her about his lonely childhood, his workaholic father, and the pressure to always achieve more. Zora shared stories about her mother's illness, her struggles to balance teaching with her passion for cooking, and her fear of never being good enough. It was past midnight when Grayson reluctantly said he should go. Stay, Zora said impulsively. Not fair to, just sleep. I don't want you to leave yet. Grayson's face softened. Are you sure? Completely, she answered. That night, Zora fell asleep in Grayson's arms, feeling safer and happier than she had in years. Her last thought before she fell asleep was how strange life could be. An accidental email had somehow brought her to this moment. The next morning, Zora woke up to the smell of coffee. She found Grayson in her kitchen trying to make breakfast. He looked funny, with his hair messy and his shirt wrinkled, concentrating hard on not burning the toast. Zora smiled. Good morning, she said, wrapping her arms around him from behind. He turned around, kissed her softly, and said, Good morning. I was trying to surprise you with breakfast, but I think I need a few more cooking lessons. It's the thought that counts, Zora laughed, rescuing the slightly burnt toast. They ate at her small kitchen table, sharing parts of the newspaper. Their feet were tangled under the table, and everything felt so natural, so right. Zora had to remind herself that they had only known each other for a little over a month. I have a meeting I can't miss this morning, Grayson said, looking reluctant. But dinner tonight? Zora asked. I'd love that, he said. My place or yours? She asked. Grayson hesitated. I've been thinking, you've never seen my home. Would you like to come over? I could try to cook for you, emphasis on try. Zora smiled at how nervous he was. I'd like that. After Grayson left, promising to send a car for her at 7, Zora called her sister Alara. So what happened? Alara asked right away. We did more than talk, Zora admitted, then quickly added, Not like that, but we're together now. I think officially. Alara screamed with excitement. I told you he was serious about you, so what's the plan now? Dinner at his place tonight, Zora said. He's going to cook. Oh my God, Alara laughed. Take pictures, or better yet video. I need to see Grayson Kessler trying to cook. Be nice, Zora said, though she was smiling. He's really trying. I was wrong about him, Alara said, suddenly serious. The way he's been at the food pantry, he's not doing it for show. He genuinely cares. I know, Zora said softly. That's what scares me. Why would that scare you? Alara asked. Zora sighed. Because this still feels like a fairy tale, the billionaire and the teacher. It doesn't happen in real life. Maybe not usually, Alara agreed, but it's happening to you. Don't mess it up because you're scared. After hanging up, Zora went about her day, teaching her classes at Lincoln High, but her mind kept going back to the evening ahead. She'd never seen Grayson's home. Would it be cold and empty like the offices she'd seen in magazine photos of Kessler Ventures? Or would it be warm and welcoming like the man she was getting to know? At 7, a sleek black car pulled up outside her apartment building. The friendly older driver, named Frank, opened the door for her. Mr. Kessler said to take you the scenic route, he explained with a wink. He said something about building anticipation. The drive took them through the most beautiful parts of the city, finally winding up a hillside to an exclusive neighborhood overlooking the water. Frank stopped in front of a security gate that opened quietly at their arrival. Here we are, miss, he said, stopping in front of a modern glass and stone house. Mr. Kessler is waiting for you inside. Zora stepped out of the car, suddenly nervous. The house was beautiful, but not too fancy. It wasn't the big mansion she had expected. Large windows looked out over the city lights. Before she could ring the bell, the door opened and Grayson stood there, looking both excited and nervous. Welcome, he said, taking her hand and leading her inside. The inside was open and airy, with warm wood floors and comfortable furniture. The big windows showed off the amazing view. But what caught Zora's attention was the kitchen. It was like a chef's dream. There were professional appliances, marble countertops, and copper pots hanging from a rack. This is amazing, she said, running her hand along the counter. I never used it before I met you, Grayson admitted. The chef comes in twice a week to cook meals that I usually eat at my desk. That's so sad, Zora said without thinking. Grayson laughed. I know, but I'm learning. He gestured to the stove where several pots were simmering. I'm making pasta primavera, or trying to. Can I help? Zora offered. Grayson said firmly. Tonight, you sit and I cook. Those are the rules. He poured her a glass of wine and made her sit at the counter while he finished cooking. Zora smiled as she watched him carefully follow a printed recipe, his forehead furrowed in concentration. The pasta was slightly overcooked, and the vegetables were a bit too soft, but to Zora it was the best meal she'd ever had. This is delicious, she said sincerely. You're a terrible liar, Grayson laughed, but still thanked her for pretending. After dinner, Grayson gave her a tour of the house. It was beautiful but simple, with not many decorations. In his study, there was a wall of photos. Grayson with his grandmother, Grayson receiving awards, Grayson working on projects, but there were no family photos. My parents and I aren't close, Grayson said. They live in Europe now. I see them at Christmas, usually. That sounds lonely, Zora said. Grayson shrugged. It was what I knew. Until recently, I didn't realize what I was missing. Their eyes met, and Zora saw a side of Grayson she hadn't seen before. This powerful, wealthy man was opening up to her in ways that had nothing to do with his money or success. Later, as they sat on his terrace overlooking the city, Grayson took her hand. I have something to ask you, he said, suddenly serious. Zora's heart raced. Okay. I've been thinking about your blog and how talented you are. I remembered something you said about culinary school being your original dream, he started. Yes, Zora said, not sure where this was going. There's a culinary institute in the city that offers a special program on weekends and evenings for working professionals who want formal training. It's perfect for you. Zora stared at him, surprised. Grayson, those programs cost a fortune. I know, he said carefully, but I'd like to offer you a scholarship through the Kessler Foundation, not from me personally. It's for adults wanting to start new careers. You'd be the perfect first person. Your blog shows you have the talent, and this would give you the training you need. Zora didn't know what to say. Part of her was touched by how thoughtful he was and how he had listened to her dreams. But another part of her worried about what accepting would mean. I don't know, Grayson, she said honestly. It feels like a lot. You don't have to decide now, he reassured her. The program doesn't start for 2 months. Just think about it. Zora nodded, leaning against his shoulder as they looked at the city lights. Thank you for thinking of me. I think of little else these days, he admitted, kissing the top of her head. The next few weeks passed quickly. Grayson and Zora spent time together, cooking, laughing, and even volunteering at the food pantry. They worked side by side, Grayson continuing his anonymous volunteer work and Zora teaching cooking classes. She was surprised by how much she enjoyed teaching. She loved seeing the pride on people's faces when they learned something new. On weekends, they explored the city, visiting restaurants and food markets. Zora's blog grew and she shared their adventures. She didn't mention Grayson by name, calling him only her cooking student, but her readers noticed the change in her writing. It was more passionate, more alive. One evening, as they cooked together in Grayson's kitchen, he asked casually, "Have you thought more about the culinary program?" Zora hesitated, then said firmly, "I want to do it, but not as a scholarship recipient. I want to pay for it myself." Grayson looked surprised. "The tuition is expensive." "I know," Zora said, "but my blog is doing well. I've been saving, and a cookware company wants me to make recipes for them. I can make it work." Grayson smiled. "I understand. And I'm proud of you." Zora felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had been worried that he would be upset, but instead, he respected her decision. It was just another reason she was falling for him. Every day, Grayson showed her new sides of himself, his sense of humor, his focus at work, and his kindness. She was falling in love with him, and she knew it. One night, as they lay in bed together, Zora finally admitted it to herself. She was in love with Grayson Kessler. She didn't say it aloud yet, but she knew it was only a matter of time. What she didn't know was that across town, someone was planning to challenge their happiness in a way Zora couldn't imagine. Jasper Reynolds, Zora's ex-boyfriend, was watching the stories about Grayson and Zora. At first, he didn't believe the rumors, but then he saw an opportunity. A story about Grayson Kessler and his relationship with Zora could be his big break as a journalist. Jasper started digging into Grayson's past and soon found something interesting. 5 years ago, Kessler Ventures bought a small food company called Thornton's Best. The timing seemed suspicious, as it happened just after the founder, Miles Thornton, Zora's father, had a heart attack. Jasper kept digging, finding court records that showed Zora's family had sued Kessler Ventures, saying they took advantage of Miles's illness to get the company for much less than it was worth. The case had been settled outside of court, and the terms were kept secret. Zora didn't know about this when she started dating Grayson. Did she know now? Jasper thought it might be a story about revenge or a strange coincidence, but either way, it was the story he needed. As Jasper worked on his article, Zora and Grayson stayed happy together. Zora had been accepted into a cooking school and was getting ready to start in 3 weeks. Her blog had enough sponsors, so she felt okay taking out a loan to pay the rest of the tuition. Grayson changed his work schedule to spend more time with her and also helped at the food pantry. He seemed happier than anyone had seen him in a long time. The night before the food pantry's big fundraiser dinner, Grayson took Zora to a fancy restaurant by the harbor. After dessert, he took her hand and looked at her seriously. "I have something to ask you," he said. Zora's heart skipped a beat. "These past months have been the happiest of my life," Grayson continued. Before I met you, I was just going through the motions. Now, every day feels full of hope. Zora smiled. I feel the same way. Grayson took a deep breath. So would you consider moving in with me? Not right away if you're not ready, but soon. Before Zora could answer, her phone buzzed in her purse. She ignored it and looked back at Grayson. Yes, she said, surprising herself. I'd love to. Grayson's face lit up. Really? He asked. Really, she confirmed. But just so you know, my cookbook collection takes up a lot of space, she added. Grayson grinned. I'll build more shelves. Then he leaned across the table and kissed her. But just as he did, Zora's phone buzzed again. Then it buzzed again. With a smile, she checked it. It was from her sister, Alara. Call me now. Something bad is about to happen. Zora excused herself and stepped outside to call Alara. Alara answered right away, sounding worried. Zora, listen. Jasper is about to publish an article about Grayson and your dad's company. It's really bad. Zora felt dizzy. What are you talking about? She asked. What company? Alara replied. Dad's company, Thornton's Best. He lost it after his heart attack, and Grayson's company bought it. Zora couldn't believe it. No, that's not possible, she said. Grayson would have told me. Alara replied, Jasper says he has proof, and he's going public tomorrow morning unless Grayson agrees to an interview tonight. Zora felt her heart drop. Wait a second. Jasper called me asking for a comment. He says you're dating Grayson for revenge. Zora felt like the world was spinning. Her father's heart attack had caused him to lose his job, and their family had struggled ever since. Zora couldn't believe Grayson had been involved in all of this. She ended the call and walked back to the table in a daze. Grayson could tell something was wrong. What happened? He asked, his face full of concern. Zora looked at him, her heart racing. Did your company buy Thornton's Best 5 years ago? Grayson turned pale. Zora interrupted him, her voice shaking. Did you know who I was when you first emailed me? Grayson looked shocked. I didn't know who you were until weeks after we met. When I realized the connection, I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid of losing you. Zora stood up, grabbing her purse. My father lost everything after that deal. My mother worried herself sick about our finances, and you knew all along? Grayson reached out, but Zora pulled away. Please, let me explain, he begged. I need to go, Zora said, tears in her eyes. She turned away, walking out the door. Her heart ached as she walked away from Grayson, feeling like everything they had shared might have been a lie. She loved him, but now she didn't know what was real. Zora walked for hours that night, tears streaming down her face as she thought about everything that had happened. She couldn't stop thinking about Grayson and the love they shared, but now she wasn't sure if she could trust him. Her phone kept buzzing with calls and texts from Grayson, but she couldn't bring herself to answer. Finally, Zora called Alara. Can I stay with you tonight? She asked, her voice filled with tears. Of course, Alara replied. I'll make some tea. At Alara's apartment, Zora curled up on the couch with a mug of tea and told her sister everything that had happened. I just don't understand, Zora said, wiping her eyes. If Grayson knew who I was all along, why didn't he tell me? Alara interrupted gently. Are you sure he knew? Zora was confused. What do you mean? She asked. Alara explained. You know, Jasper came to see me last week asking questions about Dad's company. I told him to stop, but he was determined to write a story. Zora sighed. Well, he was right, she said. No, Alara replied. Dad told me something we didn't know. The heart attack wasn't the reason he sold the company. Zora was shocked. What do you mean? She asked. Alara explained. The company was already in trouble. Dad had made bad investments, and they were close to going bankrupt. Kessler Ventures made an offer that saved them from total disaster. It wasn't as bad as we thought. Zora stared at Alara, trying to understand. So, you're saying Dad wasn't forced to sell the company? Alara nodded. He didn't want anyone to know that. He felt ashamed. Zora felt like everything she thought she knew was changing. So, the story I believed all these years wasn't true? She asked. Alara nodded. But why didn't Grayson tell me? Zora whispered, more to herself than to Alara. I don't know, Alara admitted, but shouldn't you at least listen to him? That night, Zora couldn't sleep. By morning, her hurt had turned into determination. She needed answers, and the only way to get them was to confront Grayson. Zora called Jasper. I'm ready to hear the story, she said coldly. Jasper was happy to hear from her. I wanted to give you a chance to comment first, he said. Zora said, I want to see the article before you publish anything. Jasper hesitated but agreed. An hour later, Zora was sitting in a coffee shop reading Jasper's draft article. It was full of lies and exaggerated details, making Grayson look like a villain. Zora pushed the laptop away. This is garbage, she said. It's not even true. Jasper shrugged. It's the angle that sells. People love a villain, especially a rich one. Zora was upset. You don't have proof, Jasper, she said. You're just making assumptions. Jasper looked away. I'm still working on it, he admitted. In other words, you don't have any proof, Zora said, standing up. I won't let you publish lies about Grayson or my family. Jasper tried to argue, but Zora was determined. I can sue you for defamation, she warned, and so can Grayson's company. Leaving a stunned Jasper behind, Zora went straight to Grayson's office. She needed to hear the truth from him. When she got there, the receptionist recognized her immediately. Mr. Kessler has been trying to reach you, she said. He's in a meeting, but I'm sure he'd want to see you. Zora wasn't sure what to do. I'll wait, she said. As she waited, she noticed a display on the company's history. She scanned it and found a small mention of Thornton's Best. Then she saw the date, May 18th. That date suddenly meant something to her. It was the day her mother had been diagnosed with cancer. Zora's thoughts raced. Had Grayson known about her mother's diagnosis? Was that why he had kept their connection a secret? Before she could think more, the boardroom doors opened and Grayson walked out. When he saw Zora, he stopped and looked both surprised and hopeful. Zora, he said, dismissing the person he had been talking to, you're here. We need to talk. Grayson led Zora to his office. It was a big room with tall windows that let her see the city. Unlike the rest of the building, which looked clean and modern, Grayson's office had personal touches that reminded Zora of him. There was a picture of his grandmother, a small plant, and a cookbook Zora had given him. It was open on a side table. I've been trying to reach you, Grayson said, closing the door. Zora, I need to explain something. When did you know who I was? Zora asked, looking at him closely. Grayson sighed and ran his hand through his hair. About 3 weeks after we met, I was looking through some old files for work. I saw the name Thornton's Best, and I realized the company was yours. I took a few days to make sure it was really you. And you didn't think that was something I should know? Zora asked, feeling hurt. Of course I did, Grayson said, his voice full of stress. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. At first, I barely knew you. Then, as we grew closer, I was scared to lose you. So instead, you kept it a secret? Zora asked. It was wrong, Grayson admitted. I know that, but Zora, please believe me, I didn't know who you were when you sent that grocery list. Our meeting was a complete accident. Zora wanted to believe him. Everything inside her told her he was telling the truth, but there was still some doubt. Your company took advantage of my father when he was sick, Zora said. Grayson shook his head. That's not what happened. Your father's company was already in trouble before we got involved. My brother, Dante, handled the deal. I approved it, but I wasn't directly involved in the negotiations. Convenient, Zora said, but she didn't sound as sure as before. It's the truth, Grayson insisted. Look, I have the documents to prove it. He went to his computer and pulled up some files. He turned the screen so Zora could see. Thornton's Best was millions of dollars in debt. The money from the sale helped pay those debts. Zora looked at the papers and saw the numbers matched what Alara had told her about her father's company. It didn't seem like anyone had tried to take advantage of the situation. In fact, the deal seemed fair, considering what her father's company was going through. Why did you keep trying to be with me after you knew who I was? Zora asked, her voice softer now. Grayson looked at her with a pained expression. Because I was falling in love with you. Not because of your last name or guilt, but because of you, Zora. The way you talk about food, how you care about your students, your kindness at the food pantry. Everything about you, you made me feel alive again. Zora's heart ached as she listened to him. She wanted to believe him, and when he said he loved her, she felt a deep warmth. I should have told you, Grayson continued. It was wrong to keep it from you. I'm sorry, but please believe me when I say that everything between us has been real. Zora looked at him, really looked at him. He was the man who had shown up at her door with groceries, worked at a food pantry without anyone knowing, and supported her dreams without taking control of them. He had brought happiness and laughter back into her life. Alara told me something hurtful, Zora said slowly. She said Dad was ashamed of losing the company, that he blamed your firm instead of taking responsibility. Grayson nodded carefully. The company was already struggling before your dad got sick. The heart attack made things worse, but it wasn't the reason the company was sold. Why didn't you tell me this when I accused you last night? Zora asked. Because it wasn't my place to correct your view of your family's history, Grayson said. I thought you'd be more likely to believe your sister than me. Zora felt touched by how considerate he was, even when she had been angry with him. There's a reporter, Jasper Reynolds, Zora said. He's writing an article about all this, trying to make it seem like you targeted me on purpose. I know, Grayson said. My PR team told me this morning. They want me to release a statement, but I told them I needed to talk to you first. What will you say? Zora asked. The truth, Grayson said. I had no idea who you were when we met. I should have told you sooner about the connection, and that I love you and hope you can forgive me. When he said he loved her, Zora felt her heart skip a beat. It was the first time he had said those words. You love me? Zora asked softly. Grayson stepped closer to her, holding her hands. More than I ever thought I could. These past months with you have been the happiest of my life. When you left last night, it felt like all the light went out. Zora's eyes filled with tears. I was so hurt, thinking everything between us was a lie. None of it was a lie, Grayson promised. Especially how I feel about you. Zora took a deep breath. There was still a lot to talk about, but one thing was clear. She loved him, and she believed him. I love you too, she said. That's why it hurt so much. Grayson pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I'm so sorry, Zora. I promise, no more secrets between us. They stood there for a long time, their hurt slowly beginning to heal. But then Zora remembered something. Jasper's still planning to publish his article. It's full of lies and could hurt us both. Grayson thought for a moment. What if we beat him to it? Tell our story on our terms. How? Zora asked. Your blog, Grayson suggested. You could write about us. The real story about the grocery list, everything that happened. You don't have to mention the company connection if you don't want to. The idea felt good to Zora. It meant they could share their story the way they wanted, not let someone like Jasper twist it. I could do that, Zora said, but are you sure? You've always been so private. Some things are worth going public for, Grayson said, smiling at her. You're one of them. That night, Zora sat at her laptop, typing away. She wrote about the accidental email, the unexpected visitor, cooking lessons, misunderstandings, and finding love in the most unlikely place. She titled the post The Grocery List. Within hours, her blog went viral. People loved the story about the billionaire and the teacher brought together by a simple mistake. Jasper's article was forgotten, just a tiny part of a much bigger, happier story. 2 months later, Zora moved into Grayson's house. Her cookbooks filled new shelves he had built in the kitchen. Her pictures added warmth to the empty walls. Her presence made the house feel like home. Zora started culinary school, paying her own way with money from her growing blog. Grayson supported her every step of the way, tasting her recipes and encouraging her on tough days. They worked together to expand the food pantry program, turning it into a community kitchen where families could learn to cook healthy, affordable meals. Zora taught classes twice a week with Grayson helping. He still introduced himself as H, even though many of the regulars had figured out who he was. Zora's father, after reading her blog post, reached out to Grayson. Their first meeting was awkward, but it helped heal old wounds. Miles Thornton admitted his role in the company's failure and apologized for blaming Grayson's firm. Grayson, in return, offered Miles a job on a new food project, knowing that, despite his mistakes, Miles still knew a lot about the food business. 6 months after their big talk, Grayson planned a special dinner at home to celebrate Zora finishing her first term at culinary school. Zora thought Grayson would cook, but when she got home, the house was dark, with a trail of candles leading to the back terrace. There, she found a small table set for two, with a tote bag on one of the chairs. "What's this?" Zora asked. Grayson stepped out from the shadows. "I thought we should go back to the beginning," he said, pointing to the bag. "I brought groceries." Zora peeked inside and found the same ingredients from her original grocery list: tomatoes, basil, garlic, and a container labeled Mom's Secret Ingredient. "I thought we could make your mom's pasta sauce together," Grayson said. Touched by his thoughtfulness, Zora smiled. "I'd like that." They cooked together, moving around the kitchen in perfect harmony. Grayson's chopping skills had improved, and they made the sauce together, filling the kitchen with the smell of tomatoes and basil. "I have something for you," Grayson said suddenly, his voice nervous. "A grocery list of my own." He handed Zora a folded piece of paper. Curious, Zora opened it and read the list. White gold ring. 1 diamond, not too big, not too small. Promise of forever. 1 answer. Hopefully yes. Zora looked up to find Grayson kneeling before her holding a small box. "Zora Thornton," he said, his voice full of emotion. "You came into my life because of a grocery list. You taught me how to cook, how to volunteer, how to live outside the office. Most importantly, you taught me how to love. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Zora's eyes as she whispered, "Yes." Grayson slipped the ring onto her finger, a simple, elegant diamond on a white gold band, just like the list said. "It's perfect," Zora said, admiring it. "But you know what this means, right?" "What?" Grayson asked, pulling her into his arms. "We're going to have to make a grocery list for the wedding menu." Grayson laughed, his voice warm and full of happiness. "As long as you're the one writing it, I don't want to take any chances." "I don't know," Zora said with a smile. "That first mistake turned out pretty well." Grayson kissed her, a kiss full of love and joy. As they shared the pasta with Zora's sister and Grayson's friends, Zora marveled at how an accidental email had changed everything. Life doesn't always go as planned, but sometimes it goes better. Grayson raised his glass in a toast. Zora knew that no matter what life had in store for them next, they would face it together, and it would be delicious. Thanks for watching. If you liked the story, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Check out our other videos too. See you in the next one.